And hello again, Justin, with another back-to-back crossover a minute. Um, Sharing some thoughts to consider. Here is another one. You know, I've had so many conversations over the past recent years and recent months with friends, with people, with acquaintances, and others that may ask for prayer, advice, or counsel, or just need a listening ear, things like that, for people who have gone through very traumatic situations, especially in relationships. And we're talking about just, if you don't know names, places, faces, and all that, and you just hear a story just in plain text, you look at it and you're like, that's crazy. That's crazy what you went through. That's so wrong. That's so this or that. And even your part or your role in this, while you have some accountability for that, some more than others in any given story, but you're like, but man, this this is still just wrong. I mean, you can't just. This is so wrong to do to them, or so wrong to do to you, so wrong to do themselves, so wrong to do to the children, or just whatever, blah blah blah. Um, and we when we want to in these relationships, we want to at a certain point grow, with someone as imperfect as people are, as we are, as it's going to be sometimes. We want to grow, and then when someone just isn't willing to just do their, even just kind of their base role, they're just basically still a young kid, selfish and immature relationally, and just in a grown-up body and world and life. Um, there's part of our accountability, of just jumping into something like that with someone, or maybe at the time that we got involved with them or got married to them, we were kind of like that too. But we've developed, a walk with God, or growth, or maturity, or just other things. At a certain point, either way, however whatever our accountability, we can be honest with that point, with that. But the fact is also not to diminish, um, or not respect the dignity of what someone who's gone through, that has been wronged and is continually being wronged by someone. Um, so we can tend to have certain defense mechanisms that come up, and defense mechanisms are there for a moment, um, that protect us from shock or deep impact until we process things the right way, um, to protect us just from being just overwhelmed in the moment. We may just go blank, or just there's an initial, you know things, when something hits us. Sometimes it doesn't hit us all at once emotionally. Sometimes it's latent. Sometimes it reverberates, just because we can't handle it all at once. But our response to those defense mechanisms, are the key, not the defense mechanisms themselves. And sometimes we respond before just coming to surrender. Sometimes we respond. Sometimes it's more of a reflex. Um, but we develop, or reflectively, get angry at God or the person. We get defensive and protective over our role, or what we did, or what we quote unquote had to do, to survive in survival mode, or to be where we are today. We get resistant, and cynical. And we not only get that way just in general, but then we carry it into, um, our situations in life, or potential new relationships, or if we have an ongoing, connection with a person like this, because of children in common, or whatever else that we're responsible for. These things affect us, affect the condition of our heart, our ability to experience healing, freedom, and restoration within, and our experience to have future healthy relationships. Not just special relationships either, if we're talking about, that type of setting where we've been hurt in, but also just friendships and other things as well. Um, and sometimes people look at God, and we talked to some about this, in another message or two, but just to share here, looking at God and like, well, you know, where, you know, what do I do with this, God? This person. And then if a good person finally does come along, sometimes we may even get resentful or angry about that. It's like, well, wait a second, where was this person before? You know, why didn't I meet this person instead of this other person? Or if it's, especially if it's been many years, it's like, hey, I've been available for a long time. Why did you finally come along? It's just, we work through these things, and again, it's us emoting. It's us just working through emotion that's still there, or just, and that's understandable. There's always a place of grace in God's presence for us to just come to Him and sit with Him through these things and process through them. As long as we allow it to come to a place of surrender and worship in the process of all that, of all those honest thoughts and feelings that we're having, that we're talking to Him, talking through with Him. And that's okay. That's normal. That's normal. But my question is, at a certain point, what do we want to do with that reaction, that response, that way of being? Do we want to keep being like that, really? Is that the way we want to stay? Do we want to just stay in a place of bitterness and cynicism and inability to trust and love again, and being overly possessive, being too inadvertently codependent upon our friends, or our jobs, or our kids, being too close with them, like internally, like to where you look at it from a distance and you can tell it just doesn't look right, doesn't feel right, it's not natural. Workaholic, or someone who's too frenzy with their kids and so wrapped up in their life that everything, it's like they're their world. Like you can just tell, that even if they worship God, that it's like, there's something that just doesn't feel right. And is that really healthy for their kids' development and growth with God and with their parents and with people, and with the insecurity that they're going to have because of their need of their parent, or this, or if it's harboring their codependency, or harboring their narcissism, a developed narcissism, because everything's always about them. They're always getting this attention, all this and that. So they're kind of sitting back and just taking it. Yeah, give it to me. It's kind of fostering. The point is that there's something that can be done with that. We don't have to stay like that. God is the ultimate gap filler. Whenever we are missing something that we are actually supposed to have, that we should have, that God has ordained in this life to have, healthy family, healthy relationships, healthy connection, healthy environment, and just anything else. And, whenever something has been taken or has been missing from our childhood, from our development, from our relationship, from our marriage, and it's not put back or corrected in the natural with that person, God Himself is able and more than willing to step in and fill that gap Himself, long or short term, for as long or short as is needed, and so that we can actually live and grow and be healthy and restored in our heart and soul, and then be full in that area, that other area of our heart and soul that is missing, or has some type of damage, or has something that was taken away that is supposed to be there in a healthy way. And so we don't have to stay in brokenness and bitterness and trauma and resentment and defensiveness and anger. We can have those places of surrender where we are healed. Whatever is remaining is healed. And whatever is missing, if it's not put back in the natural, His Spirit, His presence, His love, His word, His grace, His power will backfill those areas personally. And He will be the one walking the halls of our house. He will be the one holding us and in His arms, and being our companion, being our Father, being our friend, being our one, being the one that is present within us, and even in a tangible way. And so I encourage you, what areas have you been protective of empty areas, voided areas that are boarded off, blocked off from people, or maybe filled with clutter or other things that are unhealthy or that are not right, and other areas of your heart that are resistant, that are resentful, or that where that tension, where does it need to be released and just surrendered at the foot of the cross? Your place at the foot of the cross, made for each one of you as well as myself. We have a place where these things go. And all these things empty out or open up, empty or cluttered with wrong things, and poured out. And then healing and the restoration comes in that place of God's presence, the master physician, where the operating table is the altar on which he performs exploratory and corrective and healing open heart surgery, circumcising the heart from things that don't belong, mending the things that do belong, filling with his presence, blanketing with his love and oil of grace those empty areas, and then stitching back up with the thread of his unfailing, everlasting love, and sealing you with the blood that he poured out for us. Find your place. Come to him, you who are burdened and heavy laden, and you will find rest.